Luke, I am your father. What's going on? Ohio dad accused of executing his 3 sons once confession tossed. So you want to get you... What? Oh, you know... Appreciate it, my boy. So you saying that you won't... You admitting that you did it. You trying to negate that. You trying to redact that. You trying to redact it. Goddamn, you trying to redact it. Look at it, baby.
Can I roll over? I ain't gonna hurt you. I ain't gonna hurt nobody. You got anything on you? No,
you already did.
That's it.
Chad Dorman, the Ohio dad accused of executing his 3 young sons, wants his confession thrown out. He says detectives violated his rights. I'm Anjanette
Well, you ran up on
Wednesday,
with the
and
AK.
This is Crime Fix.
What that was, an AR?
Chad Dorman is accused of the unthinkable. Last
damn.
summer, deputies say he shot his 3 sons, 7-year-old
Last
Clayton,
summer?
4-year-old Hunter, and 3-year-old Chase, killing all 3 of them. The murders happened in June, but court documents say Dorman told detectives that he'd actually been thinking about killing the boys since October of 2022, 9 months prior. Here's body camera footage from Dorman's arrest.
Stand up!
I like that Durango.
Stand up! Stand up!
Damn, is that the kid? That gotta be the kid. They wouldn't blur out the dog, so that gotta be the kid.
You can also see the rifle Dorman's accused of using to murder his sons. It was sitting next to him as deputies arrived. Dorman's lawyers say he was interviewed by detectives and read his Miranda warnings, but never presented with a form outlining those rights and never asked whether he waived those rights. Dorman is quoted as saying, "Yep," when asked whether he understood that he had a right to an attorney. About 6 minutes into the interview with detectives, Dorman's lawyers claim he said, "I'll wait for a lawyer. I really don't know. Give me a couple of days. Let me talk to a lawyer so I can get good, nice answers for you."
It's nice,
Detective
good
Ross
answers,
responded,
bitch. Not
"I
good, nice
understand.
answers.
Do you
Stop
have
messing
a
it
lawyer?"
up before I get mad.
Dorman responded,
Before I get
"We
peed
have
off.
family lawyers,"
You're gonna
and
pee
said
me
that
off.
his father was a lawyer.
I'm really getting
Dorman's attorneys
peed off.
also claim that social workers and medical personnel
Well,
were
they got
used by
red cop cars
detectives
out there.
to
What the
question
fuck?
Dorman, and that he made incriminating statements that could be used against him. They also
Boy,
say
Ohio
that
look like
deputies
the middle
called
of
him a
nowhere, boy. What
monster
the fuck?
and talked about possibly shooting him, and that he should be placed in the cruiser so one deputy wouldn't do that. With me is Mark Weaver. He's a former Ohio Deputy Attorney General.
Whoa.
He's also served as a special
Did I just hear what I think I
prosecutor
heard?
in several death penalty cases. Mark, what are your first thoughts on this motion to suppress Chad Dorman's police statement?
I have litigated against this attorney, Greg Myers. He's one of the most experienced death penalty defense lawyers in the state. I know him well. We don't know what the prosecutor has to say about this motion, but I will say this. There is so much evidence against Chad Dorman that this motion to suppress is very key, because it's hard to see how the defense wriggles out of this one.
Why do you say it's very key? I mean, because there is a lot of evidence. I mean, the cops show up and he's sitting there on the front stoop with the rifle that he used to kill his children. I mean, I don't think that's in dispute. His wife and his daughter both gave statements to police about what they say happened. So is this key in sparing his life?
Damn.
How is this key?
This shouldn't play into the second part of the death penalty case, which is the mitigation phase. What it plays into is, if they can win the motion to suppress, this is just the beginning of what's likely to be an attack on the credibility of the police officers. There is so much evidence that this
I ain't
man
lying
did
for.
it.
I ain't
Trust
get
me,
ready
I'm a
about Miranda
prosecutor.
rights either. The
I
first
would vote
time,
to
it was
convict.
the only time
The
I had
jurors
went to
are
jail.
funny.
Goddamn.
And so if you have a case like
crazy.
this where the evidence is so
They just put me
overwhelming,
right back in the back of the
by
car.
building up a
Can I
case
get a
that
bag
somehow
from that?
the
Who? Can I get a
officers are
bag?
sloppy,
Am I entitled to a
that
bag?
could
You know what I'm saying?
raise,
I can
if not
prove that.
reasonable doubt
Can I
on
get a
the conviction,
bag?
it could be enough to get
Let me know in the
two
comments. Can I get a
jurors to say,
bag?
you know, I just don't see going to the death chamber over this.
Let's start with the arguments that Greg Myers and his co-counsel make in this. And you're right, Greg Myers is all over the state of Ohio doing these high-profile death penalty cases for the Ohio Public Defender's Office. The first argument they make is they say that he asked for a
How
lawyer.
much do you get paid, though,
basically
being by
6 or
being a
7
public
minutes into
defender,
the
son?
interview, they read him his rights, but they don't give him the form.
Y'all let me know in the
He
comment how
says
much you
he
get paid for
understands
being
his
a
rights.
PD.
Yep. but they don't have him sign the waiver or waive his rights. So how important is that? Plus, they say he mentions a lawyer several times, and the cops just keep going with the interview.
Yeah, there's a couple of different issues. Let's try to separate them. So Miranda versus Arizona is the U.S. Supreme Court case that says if you want to use somebody's interrogation that took place in custody against them, you have to warn them about what their rights are under the Constitution. Under Ohio law, and I think it's true on federal law, it's not required to be in writing.
They put the vest on
It's
his
just required that the state can show that there was a Miranda warning, and all the evidence suggests there was a Miranda warning, so that will not be the problem. Well, I'm interested to hear from the state when they finally file their response to this motion to suppress, is what their argument is about this notion that once he mentions he has a lawyer, I think he says it's a family lawyer, or it's someone who works for the CIA. It's a little odd, his invoking the lawyer thing. Yeah, I mean, it's the whole thing. His dad worked for the CIA, and he's obviously in an agitated state. I will be interested to see what the state says in response, because it is black letter law that when a defendant who's in custody demands to talk to a lawyer,
they put the vest on him because he was crazy fool. They put it on him for the X-ray. My bad. I forgot they do.
There's two sides to every
story. They do put that bitch on your ass.
But I do know enough about defense counsel that sometimes the way they phrase things in their motions is not exactly the way it happened.
The next argument they make, they say that basically he was being treated in the jail by a social worker and a nurse, and that the police were there at the time, and that anything he said to the social worker and the nurse shouldn't have been within earshot of the cops. So what do you think of that? You know, any incriminating statements he may have made to these people regarding his mental state or anything like that? The police, the deputies shouldn't have been there with cameras rolling.
Yeah, that's contorting the law of privilege. So all of us, when we go to our doctor, if we tell our doctor something about our medical condition, that there is that doctor-patient privilege, and that can't be introduced against you. But I doubt they'll be introducing what hurts on his body. Information that he would say during that time about what he did during the crime is not part of the doctor-patient privilege because it's not necessary for medical treatment. I think that's a weak argument. I think that's just another thing they're throwing out there to somehow suggest that the law enforcement personnel were sloppy or that they weren't following the rules.
Another thing they say is that they complain that
cell look
the
kind of
cops,
big.
the deputies, and Claremont County. This
I might
is not
be just talking though. It might just be the angle guy.
Urban area. I mean, it's a growing county. It's east of Cincinnati, one county east. So it's more a little more rural, if you will, but it's become more suburban in some respects. But his attorneys are taking issue with the fact that they called Dorman a monster, and one of the cops apparently on body camera footage said something like, put him in the cruiser, I might shoot the mother effer, something like that. So they're kind of basically saying, like, these cops are a bit of a mess. I mean, what do you make of that argument?
You can't say stuff like that, my boy. I know that much.
That's why I love the jury system.
I know that much,
goddamn. You put 12 regular Claremont County residents in the box, and they will say, well, that's normal. They've just arrested
12
all indications
in the whole thing,
hunted down his children and shot them in front of his wife and the stepdaughter. And that is a normal human reaction. Now, if they didn't follow police procedures, that's a different argument. But the fact that these officers reacted as nearly any other human would do is something that will not offend the jurors at all.
And there's actually... It's redacted in the body camera footage. It's horrible, but you can tell that one of the deputies is tending to one of the children, trying to save the child, which sadly couldn't be done.
Away, boy.
The final thing that they're arguing, Mark, was the fact that there was a public defender at his initial court appearance who met with him. And of course, the public defender is going to interview him to see if he qualifies for representation and things of that nature. And they say, the deputies are standing there, body cameras rolling while he's being interviewed by counsel. That shouldn't have happened. They're saying his rights have been repeatedly violated. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know it happened that way. Again, I'm interested in hearing what the state has to say. Very good prosecutor's office down there. I have a lot of respect for them. Normally, an attorney-client conversation should not be recorded. and law enforcement personnel should not be there for that. So I'll be interested to hear what they say. Having said that, that should not affect the proof in this case in any way, because there's more than enough evidence out there from before he was in custody that this happened, including the wife and the stepdaughter who will have to testify as to what they saw with what this horrific killer did.
Yeah, he has pleaded not guilty at this point in time, of course. He's going to do that. It'll be interesting to see what the defense in this case is. But, you know, it's an aggravated murder case. They're seeking the death penalty. Trial will begin later this year. So, Mark Weaver, thank you so much for joining us. As always, we appreciate it.
Good to see you again, Anjanette.
And that's it for Crime Fix on this Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow night. Until then, have a great night.
Nah, that crazy, fool. I ain't even gonna hold you, son. How y'all feel about that? Let me know in the comment, man. That's it for this video, fool. Make sure y'all like, comment, subscribe. Drop a comment what y'all want to see next, man. I'm over it. I'm gonna cry. Life just been so hard. It's just been so hard to get by. Okay. I'm gonna see y'all in the video, man. Big brother.